Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 105. Today's very special guest is Steve Moore. Steve Moore is an incredibly accomplished, prolific songwriter, composer, probably best known for his band Zombi. But he has an incredible discography in addition to the Zombie catalog of his own work. Under his own name, sometimes he's gone under the name Lovelock, but today he has collaborated with Nick Skrobisk from Multicult. I'm so sorry if I got that name wrong. I am having a very hard time with names and words, let me just tell you. But Overcalc is the project of Nick's, and so this album that is being released as an EP is Steve Moore and Overcalc, simply entitled Calyx. What you're listening to is the first track off of that EP, entitled the title track, Calyx. At the end of the episode, I will include a short clip of another song off of that album called Time Crystals. Now, I just need to say that Steve Moore was a wonderful guest. Great opportunity for me to speak with him and about a band I know nothing about, Goblin. There's definitely funny moments in this conversation where I have to admit that I just don't know anything about Goblin, and so I was doing the research, and there is so little information that I could use about this band and about this record that he chose, which is a very, very difficult one. It is out of print. It was only released as a CD in 1995. I can't even remember the freaking title of it. It's like this long title. It's their hits and rare tracks and outtakes from, I forget the years, 1970 something to I don't even know. I will include a link in the show notes so you can see it. You can see what I'm talking about. I don't think there's going to be a way to hear it. I mean, you know, Steve says to me, he's like pretty sure that there's a playlist for it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure there's not. I looked for it, obviously, to try to hear it, and so I've listened to some other things, but not this album because I can't. It's just not available anywhere. So it was kind of a strange conversation in that regards. But Steve actually is so closely knit, like so closely tied to this thing, to this album, and this time in his life where he discovered it. Which is the focal point of the conversation, essentially, and enlightening. If you're a fan of Steve's and a fan of, let's say, just Zombi, his band, closely tied, very closely tied, and a very interesting kind of pinpoint in Steve's life that I tried to get to. So, without further ado, I'm just going to let you into the show. We hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, all we ask is that you please do all the things you do with the internet: like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things. They all really help us greatly, with no money from you whatsoever. But if you do care to help us in a financial way, you just have to visit our website, psychicstatic.net, and anything you purchase there goes towards funding this project, and we would deeply and greatly appreciate it. Two things. I'm going to be selling, actually, some records at the Rock and Roll Yard Sale in Somerville, September 17th. It's a Sunday. We actually got rained out this weekend, so it'll be the following weekend. September 17th, mark your calendar if you're in Somerville, Mass, or somewhere near it. Definitely worth it. Lots of record vendors if you're into the records, obviously, and I will have some amazing deals because I am just getting rid of stuff. You can get some stuff at a really reasonable prices with me, so come and visit me, please. And no video today. I'm sorry, there was a mishap with with technology today, and the video feed is not available. So it's all audio this time, and hope you don't mind, but it'll be up on YouTube regardless, just as an audio stream. I think that's it. Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello, Steve Moore.
Hey, yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Now I've been doing some research about you, and you are originally from Pittsburgh, is that right?
I'm originally from Pittsburgh, yeah. Yeah, and through different through the fates of the winds and whatever, I've ended up in Albany, but I don't know how long I'll be here. It's just where I am for now.
Right, right. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, because I realized that you have played briefly with microwaves.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was like my before I ever became involved in doing film scores or doing playing with my band Zombie. Microwaves was my main band for a long time. And I just worked on their newest record as well. They're good old, like really like longtime friends of mine. So
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've spoken to John and Dave in the past.
yeah, okay. John Roman and Dr. Dave. That's what we call Dave Kuzi, Dr. Dave, because he knows about everything. He can anytime you have something that's wrong, that's broken in your rig, he can fix it. He's Dr. Dave.
Yeah. Has he ever helped you with your stuff? Because I mean, I imagine you
Oh,
have so many.
absolutely, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. He's a good guy to know for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's been very, very nice to I've met him on a few occasions now and it's been great. So I was here to speak with you about not only your latest work, which is a collaboration with tell me if I pronounce these incorrectly, Overcalc.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's Nick
Yeah.
Scrobis
Yeah.
of Multicult.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that come to be?
Well, he hit me up for a remix, to do a remix of one of his songs for Overcalc. And I did that, and in doing so, I at the same time was like, messaging a bunch of friends of mine that I thought might be mutual friends of Nick's, and I was like, yo, this Nick guy is off the chain, man. Like he's such a great guitarist, and he has also a really great sensibility for programming synthesizers as well. So when like I put this all together, I just thought like, well, yeah, let's do this remix, but let's also do a full on collab. And I had a few ideas and like lying around that I was like, oh, I think this could work really good with Nick. And he has some ideas that he sent to me, and it all came together really very organically and naturally. I think our sensibilities are like maybe we make like different kinds of music, but when it all boils down to it, we're all drawing influence from the same types of places.
Hmm.
So it all ends up working together.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Now, so I have I'm just gonna tell you very honestly, I'm not very familiar with like electronic music in general. Like it's
Okay.
probably the thing I know the least about. But I've been getting into it more. I've been kind of doing more listening to it. Obviously, to prepare for today, I've had to listen to a lot of your work and a lot of the band Goblin that you have
Oh
chosen
yeah,
for
for
today.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting stuff. It's very, very interesting stuff. I mean, I can definitely I hear it and it definitely makes me think about specific kind of like times and places in like kind of music history, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I guess the first thing I kind of wanted to ask you about your current project, the album, the EP, Calyx, the new EP between you and Overcalc. Um,
Overcalc. Yeah, overcalc. Yeah.
is like the visual aspect between it because the album artwork is a photograph of like what seems to be some kind of cactus, some kind of like southwestern
Yeah.
um, foliage, and then your music video for the first single. is also kind of like footage from the Southwest, kind of like desert-like footage. And I'm just curious, like, does the music have anything to do, like, is that like, does that visual kind of connected to that music in any way?
Well, like I both both Nick and I have toured all through the Southwest of the United States, and it's just a very beautiful and alien sort of place.
Hmm.
Nick put that all together. He had shot a bunch of like beautiful footage of the drives from Santa Fe to Albuquerque to to Phoenix to San Diego. He had sort of documented all of these drives, and these are some of my favorite drives as well. And it really the whole idea was that it presents this sort of alien landscape, because that's what we're going for with this music. Like, yes, you think it's going to be minimal techno, but then there's all this like guitar in it, and you're like, well, this is completely alien, and that's what we wanted. We wanted like a landscape that would reflect that alien nature,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and I really think that the Southwest of the United States is probably the close. I mean, it's the closest thing to like Mars we're gonna see,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's I think what we were thinking in those terms, but also I can't speak on Nick's behalf. I know that he had the video was all him. He put that all together himself. I know that we had spoken about it and about touchstones, but that's about it really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I think especially for your line of work, obviously the visual aspect, primarily in film, because you do a lot of film scoring,
Yeah.
and the music has to be connected in some way. Obviously, you're probably familiar with the way that music can kind of create a feeling and a vibe. So I didn't know if that was kind of part of that imagery.
I mean, I'm sure it factors in because that's my world nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, I do like there is a new zombie record coming. I do have new solo records coming, but the majority of what I do these days is production music for different either different production libraries or for specific movies or TV shows or something like that. So
Right.
I'm always looking at things from sort of a narrative perspective. Like I want, like when I make music, I want it to tell a story,
Hmm.
I want it to be, important, basically. I want the music to be like almost like a whole separate character in the film. That is telling you things that maybe the actors shouldn't be telling you, or don't the director doesn't want the actors to tell you this yet, but it's something that you might want to start thinking about. And so those are definitely points where I think that the score can be very useful in sort of dictating the narrative of the story, really.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, sure. Now I know that you went to college for music education, correct? I'm not sure
Yeah,
exactly
yes, yeah.
what your major was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. My regiment was the same as a music performance major. And I essentially graduated with it wasn't the credits didn't transfer, but I was also like a major in saxophone performance of all things.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
the saxophone is what I majored in college, and that's what I really have been able to excel at in the world. So
Really?
yeah, that I rarely get to use that. So it's interesting.
It's like most college graduates. I mean, how often do you really use that degree?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like this was the 90s, and like, had it been another decade or two later, maybe I wouldn't have even gone to college. I don't even know.
Yeah, right. Well, because I was wondering, I mean, with that education in music, I was wondering if that informs your creative productivity at all.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned so much going to school for music. I learned, I can orchestrate, I can write music for a full orchestra if I want to. Like
Hmm.
I've learned my way around a lot of different instruments. Of course, I don't really do it on this project, but like I'm very proficient on the saxophone, but I also am pretty fluent on the flute. I can get around on the cello. I have a broad. I'm truly like a jack of all trades, master of none. Like
Okay.
there's no one thing that I really am like really good at, but I know how to do a lot of different stuff, and that comes in handy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you're doing film scoring and stuff like that. Because
Oh
again,
God, it's super handy with that. Yeah, for sure. Like the
yeah.
last score I did, I played a ton of saxophone on, and like it's like, like I went to, I've been playing the saxophone since I was 12 years old. And at this point, like I really have like a tone, and it sounded really good. And like I saw the premiere of the film, and like people cheered for the saxophone. So that definitely was very encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of that, speaking of like your childhood being around 12 years old, I'm curious, like, so you grew up in Pittsburgh, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
to be even more specific, I grew up in Monroeville, which is it's a suburb of Pittsburgh, but it's where the Monroeville Mall is where they filmed Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, cool.
So like, and that's like, that was literally like a few miles from my house. And that was like the mall that we always went to, like we would go there like 3 or 4 times a week, just to get some lunch or shop for some dumb toys or whatever.
Hmm.
But it was like, the the fact was, like, I learned very early on about the fact that Dawn of the Dead had been filmed at the Monroeville Mall. And so that mall always held this really special place for me, where it was like, it was something that I grew up with as being just so mundane and so everyday. And then I see it in this new context, like the way George Romero wanted it to be seen. And I just became sort of obsessed with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy that should be the case. Because I mean, like, well, what came first, like, your love for horror movies, or kind of being in that mall and then only coming to realize what it was used for after the fact?
I think it's probably a combination of both of those, really. But like, really, the fact was, like, I grew up loving this mall, and then I remember I was probably about like 12 So this was maybe like 87 or 88, when I first saw Dawn of the Dead, and I realized that it took place all around Monroeville, like even not even, not even just the mall portions, but like the airport, that there's like an airport, there's a pretty crucial airport scene, and it's that airport also is in Monroeville, just a few miles from where I grew up, really. And it was crazy for me to see these things that I knew from my childhood represented, for the ages, in this context. And it changed everything. Like from there on out, like even as young as like an early teenager, like I just knew that like this is the world for me. Like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting that that should be. It kind of seems almost serendipitous that you're growing up in this area that happens to be one of these kind of integral portions of like pop history that you end up
Yeah, totally.
falling in love with is right there in your backyard, basically.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, to me it seemed very natural, and it seemed just like, because all these movies would like there were like the different like UHF stations back in the day would play all these different horror movies on, they'd play them like late nights, Friday nights or Saturday nights, or sometimes Sunday nights. I'm talking about like this is before I was able to, drive myself to the video store and rent whatever I wanted. Like this is way before DVR, way before, like it's like
Streaming.
whatever was on TV, like that's what you got stuck with. And fortunately, there were enough programs back then that were things that I really connected to, that like, one of my favorites is, and I know this is like it's very rare that I find someone else who's really into this, but Friday the 13th, the series.
Series.
Do you remember that? It was from like, it lasted from like 87 through like maybe 1990. It was like 3 seasons.
Oh, weird. No, I
And
don't
it
remember
had,
that.
yeah, Friday the 13th, the series. It was a Canadian production, all filmed in Toronto, and around, like there was some stuff filmed in like Montreal, but like most of it was Toronto. It was all Canadian cast and crew. But it had nothing to do with Jason at all. Like it was about like two like 20 somethings who inherited a store where they ended up selling like a bunch of cursed antiques, and then they had to get them all back.
Huh. That's
Yeah, it was
weird.
really weird. Yeah, it was a weird premise, but that was like one of my favorite shows back in the day. And I remember that was very important. The score by Fred Molin was, very important,
Yeah.
for me.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like a weird show. It sounds like it's surprising that it lasted 3 seasons, but I mean, it's good that you were able to experience it at least because obviously it was profound to you.
Yeah, it was
No,
important.
yeah, a little bit more about your childhood. I mean, so what was
Yeah.
music like in the home growing up?
Okay, well, I mean, like my dad he had a great record collection, and even back, like I was born in 1975, so like I remember like listening to my dad's like 8 tracks,
Hmm.
he had a ton of records, but the 8 tracks for some reason were just easier to dial up for him.
Sure.
And the two 8 tracks that really connected with me were the soundtrack for the movie FM, which
Hmm.
was about like a pirate, or not a pirate radio station, but it was about a radio station who was threatened to be shut down, and they got all these like people to rally around them and try to keep them afloat. But it had, let me see if I can remember some of these tracks. Life's Been Good by Joe Walsh.
Okay.
The title track was by Steely Dan.
Oh, okay.
FM, and that was a Steely Dan original for the movie. There were some Eagles jams. There was the Joe Walsh jam. Oh, and also my other favorites were Queen, We Will Rock You, and
Hmm.
I will say that the thing about Queen, We Will Rock You, that I remember, like, even as a very young child, the thing that really like got me about that song is like when the guitar does come in, it's brilliant. It's The tone is just pure genius.
Yeah.
And that's what really, like, that's probably my favorite memory of that album. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was an important early album for sure.
Hmm. Okay. So when do you think you got bit by the bug? Like to like when did you think that music was your passion?
I mean, I feel like I kind of knew it very early on. Even as like a middle schooler, I kind of, like, I was all right at math. I was all right at science. I was all right at everything else. But I was really good at music. And so I took that seriously, and I really just sort of like followed that trend.
Yeah. Well, because then you said you started playing sax around 12. Was that the first instrument that you picked up?
Well, I mean, I had my dad had a couple vintage synthesizers when I was a little kid, and I would play around on those before I had even played the saxophone. So, in a way, I would say the keyboards are probably what I picked up first, but the saxophone is what, like, I mean, I would practice saxophone like hours for every night. Like, I really wanted to be a really good saxophone player for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. But so when do you think that it hit you that you could actually possibly do that as a career, or did that ever even cross your mind as a young person?
As a young person, it didn't really cross my mind. There were I had to work. I worked at like as a law clerk at like different law firms in Pittsburgh. And it was pretty brutal, really.
Sure.
Yeah, there were long periods of time where I didn't think it was gonna work at all. But I just kept at it.
Right. Okay. So one of the questions that I had for you that I was going to kind of get to as we discuss the album that you've chosen for today
Yeah.
was the song. I'm going to murder this because I'm horrible at Italian, but the song L'Alba di Morti
Oh
Viventi,
yeah. Yeah.
which is off of the Zombie soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, from what I learned, Dario Argento was the producer of that and kind of claimed the rights for the European release, and so he took some liberties as a caveat to that licensing,
Right.
including some of the soundtrack work, like reproducing the soundtrack work and having Goblin come in and do the majority of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then some of Goblin's music ended up, I guess George A. Romero ended up liking it and using some of it in the U.S. release.
Oh yeah.
Was that
Sure.
your first experience with Goblin, or?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
My first experience. That's basically why I chose. Because I feel like the album I chose for our exploration here is kind of weird because it's a comp CD, but
Yeah.
it was literally, it came out in 1995, and it was really the first time that any of that stuff had been released on CD. So, like, unless you were lucky enough to have found one of those OG pressings on vinyl, like, really, like, this CD release was the first time that a lot of people, myself included, were able to actually hear these songs like without like on their own without the sound effects and everything. And it just changed my life because I realized that like this music that they were writing was so in depth, so complicated, and so incredible. And like I just realized like that's what I want to do. uh I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah. And so your first experience with Goblin was 95, or was it before that?
Well, I mean, I had obviously seen Dawn of the Dead previously, but that was probably the only my only experience with Goblin. But I remember, I think I had to special order the CD from Barnes and Noble because they didn't actually stock it. But
Mm.
I was like the weird kind of kid who was like already searching for Goblin, and that came up. And I remember when I got that, it just changed everything. Once I could really hear what these guys were doing, which was like, I mean, these guys are phenomenal musicians, and I went on to actually work with them, so like I know that this is the upper echelon of musicianship, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. I noticed that you got to perform with them in 2014, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So how did that come to be?
Well, my band Zombi, which is obviously very, we got our name from the Italian cut of Dawn of the Dead, and we're very much so influenced by Goblin. But we had the opportunity to open for them on a U.S. tour. We had a really fun time and it was great. And then one of their keyboardists wasn't able to do the next tour, and they got in touch with me and asked if I'd be interested. And it was like, they were like, well, you'll have to play saxophones, guitar, or synthesizer, and maybe doing a little bit of singing. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do all of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, that was it was really like when I joke with people these days, it's like anything I do now is just really all icing on the cake because I got to play with I got to play with Goblin, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all icing on the cake from here on out.
Right. And how many dates did you get to do with them?
We did it was a short run. It was about 2 weeks from we started in Miami and then shot the whole way across the South and ended up doing like 3 or 4 dates in California, and that was the end.
Oh, okay. That's still amazing though. I'm sure it was just like a lifetime of memories for you to kind of be able
Oh
to be there
God,
with
yeah.
your idols, let's just call them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, hands down my idols for sure.
Amazing, man. Um, Now, so you picked up this album, like this album that you're correct in saying that it's a little weird because it's a compilation, and it came out in 1995. You bought it in 1995, but you knew of them prior, like just through the movies, I guess, right?
I knew of them just through the movies, but when I saw the minute I saw that they had released like a CD that had some of this music on it, I knew that I had to have it. And hearing the underscores for some of these movies, and a lot of them I hadn't even seen at that point.
Mm,
Because it was still like this was kind of before like the big DVD Blu-ray proliferation, like a lot of these movies weren't even available outside of like weird like VHS tapes that are the wrong region,
sure. Indie video stores, maybe something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. Yeah. So that was like the only way to find some of this stuff. It was right around that time that I started realizing like at the time, I mean like okay, so this was 1995. I was 20 years old. I was still at college, and my whole thing was like I was just coming out of like at least 5 or 6 years of like being like playing mostly in like hardcore bands of all things.
Hmm.
But then I also, because I was a saxophone major at college, I was also doing like dinner jazz kind of gigs. And I was just like looking for something new and something to like inspire me. And when I heard that, it really inspired me like to the point that it really changed really kind of the whole trajectory of my life, where I realized, for sure that I really wanted to make music like this and potentially make film scores as well.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So it literally was like that. This was the literal pinpoint to like that turn in your life where all of a sudden you're like obsessing about synths, obsessing about film scores, and so forth.
Yeah, I would definitely say that this exact comp CD, and that's why like it's weird to choose a comp CD for something like this, but it was literally the first time any of this stuff was available on CD.
Right.
So like and like for me living in the suburbs, like I wasn't like there's no way I was ever gonna find any of this stuff on vinyl.
Right.
It was just like it wasn't until it was released on CD by DRG, which was a great series. They had so many. There were several Morricone collections. There was the Morricone Argento trilogy
Mm.
CD. There was like the Morricone Westerns CD. There was just like the general Morricone horror CD. This company DRG with the classic Italian film scores, they put out so many great scores, and that was like really the first time that any of this stuff was ever on CD. So it for me it was really important because to me at that point like I was still listening to a lot of CDs, and it was sort of important to be able to find stuff on that medium.
Oh yeah. Well, at the time, I mean, 95, that's kind of that was the peak of digital media, really. I mean,
God, I mean it
vinyl,
was I mean like it was really I mean what 95 that I mean that's only like a year after Kurt Cobain died. I mean
right.
that's like 95 is like ancient history in a weird way, like
A lot
but it
has
was
changed, yeah.
yeah, a lot has changed, but like, and this was before Napster. This was before any kind of file sharing.
Right.
The only way you were going to be able to find these tracks was by purchasing these CDs. And it really, for me, I really kind of loved the exclusivity of that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've always been sort of contrarian, and like I think I always liked the idea of like being into music that like other people aren't gonna be into, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, the premise of this show is a weird one because first of all, it's hard to pick like one album to speak about for a musician that was
Of course.
inspirational or
It
influential.
took me a while to figure out exactly what I was gonna choose for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And then like so when Curran got back to me with your choice, I was just dumbfounded because I was just like, what is this? I had no idea. I had no idea who Goblin was. I had no
Oh
idea.
wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I'm not a big horror movie fan, and so like that
Okay.
music scoring and this kind of genre specifically, just like really is just I had no idea, completely oblivious to it,
Oh
really.
boy. Wow. So I'm hoping that I've blown your mind here, because these guys have some incredible music to dive into.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I have been, and it's been a lot. I mean, look, honestly, between your discography and Goblin's discography, I've just been drowning in like electronica and like synth music. It's been insane. I've been trying to digest as much as I can, and honestly, like I haven't had enough time. I haven't been able to get through everything. I try to like I
Yeah.
typically pride myself on like trying to learn everything I can about the artist and the chosen album and all of that stuff, and I can't. I just can't. It's
No,
just way too much.
that's probably my fault. I have a ridiculous amount of
No,
stuff available.
no, but I appreciate your choice because like when it was given to me, I was just like, is he fucking with me? What is this? Like, because I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. I can't like this album is not available for streaming anywhere.
No,
It's not on.
it's way out of print. Way
Yeah,
out.
and it's not on YouTube. I figured, okay, maybe it's on YouTube. It's not. There's a few different compilations. I mean, and like to go through the track listing of the CD itself, I mean, I was able to find some of the tracks individually, and I kind of like created my own playlist just to kind
Yeah.
of like get a feel for it. But I haven't been able to listen to all of this stuff. I don't know all of it. And then, the band alone is fairly obscure, like you're saying, like you kind of like, take pride and kind of being a little bit of absurdist, I guess, in your musical background, like kind of what inspires you, what you like, and
Yeah,
that
for sure. But at the same time, like I really do like, it's not like there's no irony. Like
no, there's not.
uh I genuinely like Goblin is my favorite band ever, and I will say that until the end of my days.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to get to is just that like I completely see it. I mean, like first of all, I mean, yeah, the music that you make is heavily tied to the style of music that Goblin's making,
Oh, for
not
sure.
only in the synth aspect, but because they were primarily like a film score band,
Yeah,
and heavily intertwined into the film into the horror movie genre.
definitely.
So I totally see it, man. I totally see that connection. I mean, it's nice to know that it that like in this case, because it's not always the situation, but in this case, the album that you're choosing and kind of citing as like a pivotal moment in your life and in career is very much intertwined with what you do currently.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, that I mean that's the whole point of it, is that like this was the album that like when I heard it, when I was first able to like special order it from Barnes and Noble or whatever, whatever I had to do back in the 90s to get this CD, when I heard this, I just thought like, well, I want to be in a band that makes something similar to this. And it was like, so it was really important in the whole formulation of my band Zombie. Like I don't think, had these scores not been reissued on CD in the 90s, I don't know that we would have done what we do, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Was Zombie in existence before you heard this album, or only
No,
after?
no. We the first time we got together was in 2000, the year 2000.
Okay.
And even then it was just Tony was playing drums and I was playing saxophone, and it was just basically a free improv group. So
Hmm.
it took a couple years for us to reach a concept for our band. But yeah, the first time, yeah, we and this was I think that Tony also had this same CD collection, and we like when we first met and realized that we were into this same stuff, that we realized that we had to try to do something, together for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And so, follow-up question. What
Yeah.
was the first synth you bought?
Oh, okay. My very first synthesizer was it was a realistic MG1. That's the name. Realistic, if you might remember, is the name of all Radio Shack branded products.
Yeah. Sure.
It was a synthesizer produced by Radio Shack, but it was designed by Bob Moog. So it
Oh.
was it was literally a Moog synthesizer in a Radio Shack case.
Yeah.
And you used like back, I mean, I bought this, I bought it in like 1999 or 98 or something like that, and nobody was interested in this stuff at that point. I think I got it for like $50 or something. And it's literally a Moog designed synthesizer branded with a realistic Radio Shack brand. And like, so nobody ever took it seriously, but that was my first synthesizer that I ever bought. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's also helpful information if anyone out there is into synths.
Oh, if
Because
anyone ever sees one of these in the wild, definitely snatch it up. They're great.
yeah, if someone hasn't already been, privy to the information, is just like
Right.
charging hundreds of dollars for it, if not more.
Sure.
Um, so let's see. I'd like to kind of talk about Goblin for a little bit
Yeah.
because I don't have very much information. To be completely honest with you, I can't find a lot, especially based on this compilation and the songs that are on it. There was very little information I had to work off of. So I have very few questions for you, really.
Okay.
If anything, I think you'll probably be more of a resource to me than anything else I could have found online.
Yeah. I mean, I know these guys. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's see, like early history of the band. They started off as like a prog rock band. Cherry Red. No, well, Cherry Red wasn't the first name of their band. It
Cherry
was
5.
Cherry Five.
Yeah.
Um, the first name of their band was Oliver. Is that how they started off?
Yeah. Oliver was the very first band. And then Cherry 5 was the first one that I remember being able to hear about. Those and I'm not sure if you've heard any of that stuff, but it's incredible. That record is really phenomenal. But
Hmm.
yeah, they started off. There's a track on the Cherry 5 record where you can actually hear like the moment that Dario Argento heard them and was like, "Oh, these guys could work with me." There's a very creepy moment in one of their songs.
Yes.
And that was basically the beginning of their working with Dario Argento, and that's what sort of propelled these guys to stardom in Italy. But I mean, the fact was that most of these guys were studio musicians working on like tons of different records. Like I have a bunch of different LPs that Fabio Pignatelli, the bass player, uh,
Hmm.
that he played on, that are just they're just straight up Italian pop records, but it's got Fabio Pignatelli on it, so I had to get it. I'll say it, I've said it many times before, and I will continue to say it, that Fabio Pignatelli is just the greatest bass player in the world, and absolutely my hero. He's such a sweet dude
Hmm.
and really an incredible bass player. He's the only guy who played on literally all of the old Goblin soundtracks and scores and
Okay.
albums. He's the only, like, back in the day, like, now there's Claudio Simonetti's Goblin, which is just Claudio and a bunch of other people, but up until that, Fabio was he was the linchpin that held it all together.
Yeah, yeah, and his work is great. I remember I did hear some of the songs off of that Cherry 5 record, and yeah, it's very reminiscent of like early Yes. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, Fabio is a massive Chris Squire fan, as we all are,
sure, yeah.
I mean, what's not to love about the dude? But like, right down to, like, Fabio plays a Rickenbacker, and he's definitely going for that. Like those guys are very much inspired by Yes,
King
by
Crimson.
Crimson, by absolutely by Genesis. They're big Genesis fans.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So actually it was you mentioned his name, Claudio Simonetti. It was his
Yeah.
father who was also a musician and a film scorer, or he an engineer that recorded film scores, right?
Oh, I'm not even sure about that. I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, that's what I had heard in the research was that his father was recorded film scores. So I assume that meant he was an engineer of some
Oh
sort. He was
wow.
he was
Okay.
in the business somehow,
Yeah.
and he introduced them to Carlo Bixio, the founder of Cinevox,
Right. Right.
and that's kind of how they got their start. Even though Cinevox was kind of specifically a film score label, they were kind of trying to shop themselves as this band,
Yeah.
and but he saw the potential in them and signed them both for film scores and for just being studio musicians. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how they got their
Exactly.
start as musicians in a number of different projects.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of the Lucio Fulci movies, horror movies, but Fabio Frizzi was the composer on a lot of those scores. But through touring with those guys, I learned that the vast majority of it was Goblin. Like they hired Goblin to play. Like Goblin was essentially like the rhythm section,
Mhm.
and then everything else went over top of that. So they were very in demand for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. So, moving on, I would like to talk a little bit about the first song on this record, the Profondo Rosso.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
from what I learned, this is the band's first collaboration with filmmaker Dario Argento.
Yeah.
And Argento had originally contacted jazz pianist and composer Giorgio Gasolini to score the film, but
Right.
he was unhappy with the output. He deemed it awful. Um, so end up Argento ultimately ended up contacting Goblin after failing to get Pink Floyd to participate in the soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's a crazy story, but I mean, yeah, Goblin is as close to Pink Floyd as you're gonna get. They're like kind of the Italian Pink Floyd.
Sure.
Those guys, like, they not only are, yeah, I think it all it all worked out in the long run because that score that they came up with is just really sort of indelible with that film.
Mm.
And it is a bit Pink Floyd, but it's also like it just has its own character. It has its own personality that really is was like that's what drew me to it, was that like I had heard music kind of like this, but not exactly like this, because I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh in southwestern PA, and there was all like Pink Floyd was on the radio all the time. And this was like some exotic Pink Floyd that I had never heard before, and maybe that's part of what really drew me to it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it is definitely a strange, you know, style of music, especially for the time, I would imagine. I mean, like, not much of, unless you were kind of like, knee deep into the horror genre and kind of like, focusing on the set on the soundtrack work, the scores. I can't imagine there was anything else readily available that sounded like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's move on. Like I said, I don't have a lot, so I'm going to skip down to just a few random tracks. So for the Chi or Chai, I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
how this is a theme from the original TV show from
yeah.
1976. Bassist Fabio Pignatelli said that there are aspects of this that were inspired by Herbie Hancock's Headhunter period.
Oh, I believe it. I totally believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so we've been talking a lot about Goblin and how influential they were on you, and the work that you do. But what other artists can you cite as like inspirations to some of the stuff that you make, and maybe specifically towards this existing new project with Overcalc?
Oh, well, for that, for what we've been doing, I was really more drawn towards, sort of Detroit techno type of, like a Detroit techno kind of sound, like a real honest minimal techno sound. And some of the guys that I draw major inspiration from are of course Carl Craig, who is just like the godfather. Who else might I cite? He's probably the biggest of my inspirations when it comes to those types of that type of oh, maybe Robert Hood. Oh yeah, Robert Hood too, for sure.
Okay.
uh these like old, like tried and true, Motor City techno kind of guys who really have a good perspective on how to make a track work, a techno track, so I'm very interested in guys like that. I feel like that was probably like stuff like that is probably the most important influence on what I was doing here with Overcalc,
Hmm.
because it was really like I was trying to give him like sort of like a landscape that he could just do what he wanted to do with, really just take all the liberties he wanted to take. It was more about just creating a foundation for him to
Yeah.
play guitar over and to add his synthesizers, which he's just very adept at both.
Oh, okay. And so that was a uh what do they call that? Like a why I'm forgetting the goddamn word. Jesus Christ. Like what we're doing now, what is this called? This is a conference call. It's a
I would say that. Yeah.
it was that like the way that you guys worked together on this project? You kind of like were conferencing back and forth, or did you actually get to collaborate together like in person?
No, unfortunately, we never actually. We have met in person, but we've never been able to actually do any of this collaborative process in person. That's all been remote for sure.
Remote. There's that word. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Remote. Now, there we go.
um, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm freaking out of my mind today. I got my wisdom teeth out like just a few days ago,
Oh, no.
and
Okay.
I'm just like I can barely talk really. Um, all right, so let's
Sorry
see.
to hear
Move.
that.
That's okay. I mean, it had to be done.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on. One of the other things I found out some information about was Suspiria.
Yeah.
Probably they're one of their biggest tracks. They're one of their biggest works as far as scoring is concerned.
Yeah, it is. It is probably their. It is probably Goblin's greatest artistic triumph.
Yeah,
It's just an incredible score. Really phenomenal.
yeah. I mean, as a fan, I mean, I was going to say that it's probably their most popular, but as a fan, you're also saying that it is definitely their best work.
Yeah, I would say so. I would think so. I think it's maybe not necessarily my favorite because my favorite is the stuff that they did for Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Like it's a like I love that. I love Dawn of the Dead from when I was a kid, and it's so that sort of taints my vision.
Yeah, it's nostalgic for you.
It definitely there's a nostalgic touch for sure. But I would say that yeah, I think Suspiria is there. I mean, it's just a mind blowing score. Really, so phenomenal.
Hmm. Okay. Well, so in an interview,
Definitely in my humble opinion, I definitely think that Suspiria is their tried and true best.
okay. So in an interview with Style magazine, Claudio Simonetti said, quote, "In the beginning, we read the script and started to record, but after the film was edited and finished, we decided not to use it. It's like if you read a book and go see the movie. Normally, nobody likes it because your idea of it is different. When the film was
Oh,
finished, the mood was completely different. So we threw away everything and rewrote from the beginning."
oh wow.
Yeah. So in scoring, have you had any similar experience?
I have as a matter of fact. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, it's film scoring is a delicate business, I have had a couple times where I've come up with some ideas that I thought were going to be really appropriate and going to really work, but the producers and the director decided that they weren't so into it. But for the most part, I've been really lucky that I typically I have a close group of friends that I work with, and we all know like when my buddies hire me, they know what to expect from me. So I don't usually go through that kind of thing too much anymore.
Yeah. Okay. But unfortunately, I mean, sometimes it happens. I mean, I
Oh
can't,
yeah, for sure. It definitely happens.
I
Yeah.
mean, because you don't have complete control over it. I mean, like you have control over what you write, but as far as like what you turn in, like the filmmaker ultimately has the ultimate say in whether or not it's going to be used, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean that's a big part of it is that you can't get too attached to anything that you turn in because you know that maybe the director's just going to be like, this is completely the wrong direction, and you have to entirely start over from scratch. So yeah, you have to definitely have a thick skin to do this kind of work.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like this is like you're putting all your time and your energy and your heart and soul into this stuff, and sometimes you get just a note back that's just like, this doesn't work, can we try something again? And it's like, it is fine. Like I've been doing it long enough that it never really bothers me, but like I can see how for some younger, more cocky, a little, I could see how it could be a difficult thing for some younger people. For me, I try to like be completely open to uh other people's ideas and other people's input. And so like, when I'm working with a director and they get back to me and they're like, well, this part works, but this part totally doesn't work, we need to try this or that, or i'm
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm always totally into that, like i I kind of love the collaborative process, to be honest. I really, when I can get some feedback, like honest, hardcore feedback that I can use and that I understand, I love incorporating that kind of stuff into my scores.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this about film scoring because I really don't have any knowledge about it whatsoever. So when you're approached with the idea of scoring a film, does the filmmaker come to you with the script or with actual like footage of the film?
Usually it's the script comes first, and you have to read through the script, see if you're going to be interested, and then they'll send you the film. But to be honest, you basically don't get the film until it's actually like, until they have a locked cut.
Okay.
So once it's actually finished, and maybe like all the VFX aren't totally done, but at least like it's locked, like the timing is all set. So
Hmm.
I can go ahead and start like writing my music. And because that's one thing you don't want to be working on a film before they have a locked cut, because like you could be working on a scene and then it turns out that they're like, well, we cut 5 seconds from this point and then we cut 20 seconds from this other point, and then nothing that you did is ever going to match up again, so
Yeah.
you're just toast,
Right. I
so
see.
it's like all that work for nothing. So yeah, basically, mostly I don't get anything until it's really like ready to be worked on.
Okay. And so what do you think is better for you? I mean, do you prefer to score or do you prefer to just like work with the band and put out an album?
That's a good question. I To me, like, to be quite honest, like there's putting like working in a band and putting out an album and touring is very fun, but there's something very special about working on a movie and watching that movie in a room full of people. Like I just the last movie that I worked on, it's called Suitable Flesh. The director is Joe Lynch. We had our Canadian premiere at the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal last weekend, and the audience was just rabid. Like they just ate it up. Like literally, it was beautiful. And I think I would say that like the experience of getting to see a film that you worked on in the presence of a large enthusiastic audience is definitely outweighs like playing a show, because in a way it's kind of like you get to like, it's almost like playing a show but you get to watch it,
Hmm.
because you're in the audience and it's like all this work that you've already done, and now you just get to see the big payoff,
Yeah.
and you
Okay.
don't have to do anything, you just have to sit there and watch the film, and it's
Right.
yeah, that's one of my great and I try to do it every opportunity I get, but any film that I've scored, I always try to be there for the premiere, because it there's just like there's in the live music world, there's nothing that quite compares to like the feeling of like, seeing a huge theater where the people really love what you've done,
Hmm.
and you get to actually be in the audience and witness it. That's the important part.
And there's an anonymity to that, I suppose, because you're just one person in the audience. The person, in theory, sitting next to you doesn't even know who you are, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, totally.
So you get some like honest feedback, like right then and there.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, people are, it's, yeah, you get to see like people are going to be cheering. They don't know who you are. So they're going to either cheer or they're not, or, but like if they cheer in the spots where they're supposed to cheer for, then it's just, a totally beautiful experience for sure.
Wow, that's pretty great. Pretty cool stuff, man. Um, so as far as covering this album,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all I had. There,
Okay.
there was not much else I could find that pertained to the songs, to like to the tracks on this album. I
Yeah,
guess
I picked a
maybe.
kind of weird one. I just thought this was like really, I mean, this was the first, this album, weird comp CD represents the first time that I was ever able to own any of this music. And I think that's what the big thing for me was, that then I could listen to it whenever I wanted.
Mhm.
And it was like understanding that, like, I don't know, I've been into film music literally since I was like 6 years old. But like for some reason, when I was able to actually be able to listen to what Goblin was doing on some of these scores, it was just what I needed. Like I mentioned, I was either playing, at the time it was 1995, I was either playing in hardcore bands or playing in jazz bands. And it was like, I just needed something else. Like
Mm.
I was looking for anything else to guide me, anything else to give me like a direction for like what I should want to do musically, And this album hit at just the right time, and I bought it and I made tape copies for all my friends, and it was like it was a thing. This was still the mid 90s,
Yeah, yeah,
so it was like, yeah, it's not like, Led Zeppelin 4 or whatever, but it's like a pretty, for me, it is my Led Zeppelin 4, it's like, it's kind of the record that like made me think like, well, I kind of want to do this.
yeah, yeah. And you are. I think that
And
you're. I
I'm doing
mean,
it now. So yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
And you know what? And to speak to this music, just to for people that aren't familiar with it necessarily, I will say that it's described as like kind of prog rock, experimental, synth driven, horror film music, but it's they're very much like songs. Like when you listen
Yeah,
to
for sure.
these, because like when you're watching the movie, you get the portions, little clips of the music kind of interwoven into the visual, and then that's what kind of creates the feel the vibe. But when you're listening to the songs in their entirety alone, it's like they're very much just like instrumental prog music for the most part.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and
Yeah.
not even like and what I really like about it is it is I mean it's genuine authentic Italian prog, but focused through like a pop lens where there are choruses and there are verses, and
Hmm.
it's not like too much of for your palate, like
Yeah.
there are hooks and there are refrains, and yeah, so I totally get that. That was a big thing for me too, realizing that about them.
Hmm. All right. So for listeners, I would just say if you don't know Goblin, by all means go listen to some of it wherever you can, whether like not obviously they're not going to find this record probably, but at least other compilations that they have out currently. There are some things that are out there, just not this one specifically. But enough to kind of
I think there's a playlist on YouTube.
Hmm.
I haven't checked it really recently, but there used to be a playlist on YouTube that was the exact track listing of this CD.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll look for that and maybe I can link it
Yeah,
just to see because it would be interesting to kind of hear it in its entirety. You know,
sure.
I've just listened to pieces of it just on my own. But yeah, so aside from this, I mean like this new EP that you have coming out with
Yeah.
Overcalc, what is the plan currently as far as this release and possible touring?
Well, we've been thinking about touring. It's a little tricky. I have my other band Zombi, and we've been working on a lot of music um, as well. So that's been a little tricky lately. But I think the plan is that maybe we'll do some shows together, and then we definitely want to do more, collaborative recording together for sure.
Oh, so there might be some more coming down the line for this.
I think it's very possible, yeah.
That's cool. Great. So no definite plans for touring, but it's a possibility. And then Zombie as well. You're saying that you have a new album kind of in the works coming. That's also in the
But that won't
pipeline.
be until next year. This is all sort of distant future still.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what is in your most kind of close future?
I've been working on the new Zombie record. Has been basically my main thing these days. Getting that ready.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Well, I just like to say thank you for taking some time to speak with me. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, likewise.
Well, best of luck with all of your current projects and all of your future projects. And I hope to see you out there in the real world sometime.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Vinyl and Vision is a Psychic Static production. Theme song written and performed by Jeff Robbins of 123 Astronaut.